Welcome to all of you who have joined us for today's session on the search competency. Hopefully Agnes Molnar will be joining us in a few minutes. We haven't gotten to her bio yet, so she's not late, I guess. This is our probably about 10th or 11th one of these sessions. Hopefully they're proving useful for you all. Did that just advance the slide?
It did.
It did. Okay. So our agenda for today, which is the same in just about every session that we do in this series, is to talk through a little bit about what's changed, what's going on, what's the purpose of this maturity model, how do we see you using it out there in the wild. We'll do a shout out and a picture time because that's always so fun, and then we'll talk to our rock star of the day, Agnes, not about the collaboration competency as it says on that slide, but actually about the search competency, my editing mistake. So that's what we have in store for today. Simon, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll take us through this. Yeah, so as ever, the purpose of the maturity model is to enable organizations to get more from Microsoft 365. We've got a number of competencies. We're talking about search here today. There's been quite a lot of activity, isn't there, sort of in the last month with a new competency looking at compliance, which is very exciting. I know that Simon, Sharon and Nikki have been getting stuck in with that, so that's going to be exciting. And also there's some progress as well in data analytics as well with John, and so that's really good too. So but yeah, as I say, the purpose is enabling businesses to understand how they can get more from 365. It's not technology focused, it's focused on the business language, and enabling the people within the business to get buy-in from the right people, from the senior management team, enabling the business to understand where it currently is in the maturity model, where it wants to be by looking at the impacts and the benefits from the various competencies, and then enable it to come up with a roadmap and say, right, we're here at this point, we want to be here in these particular competencies, it's not a one size fits all, so different organizations will have different desired goals which they want to get to. So and then the purpose of this session really is to share knowledge and get success stories from the rest of from you guys, from the rest of the community, on what works, what doesn't work, so that we can all evolve this to be better. So the maturity, we'll go to the next stage slide, that'd be brilliant. So what is the maturity model around? So the maturity model has 5 levels. The initial level of 100, which is kind of the default state, and is chaotic and needs some work. Level 200, where there's that the realization that there is a better world out there, and moving to that chaotic world, to starting to come up with some routine processes, but they may not be, they're not standardized across the enterprise. Moving into level 300, where we really are starting to get some traction here. We've got a good base, really. Level 300 we still see is the place where you want to be, where processes are defined and standardized across the organization. Moving then to level 400, where we're starting to build some measurements, some quantitative levels, which we can then use to work out, to understand and test how we're doing things, so that we can then look at moving to level 500, where we're starting to optimize and try things out, measure them, work out what works, what doesn't work. So that's the levels when we talk about our levels in the maturity model. Move to the next slide, that'd be grand.
I do want to say Agnes was able to join us. I hadn't given her the link. My fault. So here she is.
I am here. Hello, everybody, and I'm sorry I have not realized it earlier that I could not figure out the connection info from myself. So thank you, Marc, for sharing it. I am here.
Oh, it's great to have you join, Agnes. Just did perfect timing as well. And this slide is sort of building on that maturity level, but talking about intent. I think this is Mr. Hudson's latest thing. You know, we had some keywords, but now it's what is the level looking to achieve. So I won't read them out, but again, it's around each of what we've already talked about. But and that might be different for each competency as well. So we would go forward. Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Mark. So we'd love people to be involved. You know, if you're interested in presenting a case study, something where you've used the maturity model, or just stories around a particular competency. Maybe you've had some fantastic wins with search and you wanted to come and chat to us. We'd love to have you involved in that. But also you can get involved by contributing on GitHub, whether that be picking holes in the maturity model, coming up with some new issues, and starting discussions, or just providing some feedback with areas which didn't work or did work. But yeah, if you could also socialize the content, that's the greatest way of getting adoption and building this up to be a great tool is by sharing it with others, so that it can be better for everything, better for all. We've got a couple of links down the bottom there, so we do record parts of this. So we've got the previous sessions, and there's a good one there on how to run a Microsoft maturity model for Microsoft 365 workshop, and then there's a link to all the recordings there. Right. I think we're on to what we've got planned. Oh, yes, this is a new slide. So yeah, we were looking for what the future is. Mark, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, sure. So we usually talk about what we're going to talk about next at the end of these sessions, but we thought we'd put this slide earlier and sort of maybe give a little bit of a pick one from column A, one from column B option. We were thinking, and again, we're skipping the December session because it would have fallen on December 21st, which is a little close to the holidays. We probably wouldn't have gotten a lot of people. So this will be mid-January. We were thinking about talking about the business process competency. We've got some new work coming, as Simon mentioned, on the data and analytics and infrastructure competencies. So they're not quite ready yet. But we also have on the list people and communities and accessibility in the maturity model. Business process was our next thought. Anybody feel strongly that they'd like to hear about something different, or does that sound like a good one? I've sort of made that ambiguous enough so that everybody has to answer it the way I want them to, right? So that's what we think we're doing. All right, got some smiles and some thumbs up. I don't see any little vomiting emojis, so I guess we can stick to that, right? That's a pretty good deal that there is no such thing as a vomiting emoji available.
We are highly anticipating the Marc Anderson avatar with bated breath.
You've got a worm on your tongue, do you? All right. Well, so that's where we'll go in January. So, well, actually, here's a question for the crowd. Who would you think would be a great guest star to talk about business process? Give that a little thought, and we'll watch for your answers in the chat window. All right, so thanks to everybody who came to our last session in October. We're using a smaller and smaller font. Kevin, you were asking how many people came to these sessions. It looks like Sean Garvin is in there 3 times, so that's cheating a little bit. But it's become a much longer list as we've gone forward, which is great. That next session is January 18th. We're going to talk about business process because none of you negated it. Christian Buckley, interesting suggestion. Emily, well, of course, Emily would be awesome. Emily's awesome at everything. So there also are some upcoming sessions that David and his crew lead. The community docs sessions on Wednesday, the 17th of November under the Sharing is Caring umbrella. That's a session where you can learn how to, actually, you should probably have these reversed. The first time contributor session is one where you can learn how to use GitHub for sort of learn the basics. And then the community docs session is one where you can actually learn how to make pull requests and suggest changes to the community docs themselves, of which the maturity model is one part.
And you may
So,
be wondering, well, why did you do first time contributor in December, David, and community docs
why
in
did you,
November?
David?
Well, actually, we did have a first time contributor in November already. It's just that it's already passed, and the way this call fell today, it was already past that. So that's why you see it that way. But we always try to preface the order of these so that if you wanted to attend both in the same month, assuming they are in the same month, sometimes they're every other month. We've got a lot of sessions we don't want to overwhelm the community with. And so just keep in mind that you don't have to join the first time contributor session first. We recommend it. But if the calendar falls like it is right now, definitely join. We're going to still be able to walk you through how to do everything. You're going to learn some very cool tips and tricks. And then you could always join the first time contributor because we do build upon one another and we cover different things. So you won't be left behind, though, if you join the community docs before you've joined the first time contributor. You still walk you through everything hand in hand together, so you won't feel like you're missing out. There's just some more like patterns that you may miss that you'll be able to get at the next one, but it won't prevent you from being able to be part of the session.
And David and crew do a great job of explaining how GitHub works. I wish I had that session to go to when I first started trying to figure out what GitHub was and how it worked. It took me years to figure it out. You guys make it simple in an hour. Awesome.
Team effort.
Okay. Well, yes, I guess. But you've got it honed. All right, so it's picture time. Hopefully we have enough people to beat that count. So if you have your camera off and you'd like to have it on so that you can put your smiling face on there and wave your arms around a little bit, that way we can show off the crew for the next one, and David will take over. And
all right, there we go. And a couple more seconds for those that would like to join in. See some things still popping in. All right, so all right, there we go. We got some more faces. All right, let's give the community a wave, everybody. Excellent. Great to see.
Are we supposed to use both hands when we do
you can't, I mean, like Seb does the whole dancing thing, right? Like maybe we all do that. Let's do it. Some crazy woo. All right, excellent. Looks great. Looks great.
We're searching for the right hand signal. There.
All right, back to you, Mark.
All right, let's see. We want to be in the right slide here. Ta-da. I'm sure there's a snazzy way to get to the right place, but I don't know what it is. Okay, so without further ado, we want to introduce Agnes. Agnes, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and why you're so special? We know you.
I don't think I am special, but yes, I'm Agnes. I live in Budapest, Hungary. And I am the founder and managing consultant and CEO of Search Explained. And well, what we do in a nutshell, we explain how search works. So our primary focus is on Microsoft 365, and we do consulting, training, mentoring, implementation, everything around search for international companies in North America, Europe, and also in Asia these days. I am a member and founding member of a couple of organizations around search and knowledge management and all kinds of related stuff. For me personally, the most important one is the Search Network, which is a network for search professionals. And we are at the moment 11 of us. I am the only one working with Microsoft technologies, but you can imagine all different kinds of search engines are represented there, and we have an ebook every year that we publish about the state of search, which is called Search Insights. And yeah, I've been working with SharePoint for forever and search for many years now.
That's why we turn to you, because you know search just about better than anybody out there. Like there are several others who know some things about search too, but we wanted to be sure that you were our guest star for this one. I think you've got a lot of interesting thoughts that you can pass along. Definitely. So we're going to talk about the search competency. Everybody knows how Teams works these days, but in case you don't, you have those little emojis you can use. You can raise your hand if you would like to be recognized in a formal way. And you can also use the chat anytime you like, and we'll try and make sure we catch the questions or comments as we go along. So, it's funny. I think Simon Hudson put this slide in here, and he's got a sick kid, so he's not here. So, we were going to talk a little bit about these images. Actually, come from an article that we have in the Community Docs repo called "The Principles of Search," which talks a bit about how you can think about search and what's important to know in order to be effective with search. Agnes, I don't want to put you on the spot with an article that somebody else wrote, but do you have thoughts about those principles of search and how people can think through them?
Number one, in my opinion, is that search is not a one-time project. I always start with this. It's a business process or call it whatever you like, but it's not a one-time project like, okay, in 3 months or 6 months, we implement search, we do search, and then we are done. Search is never done. It's like a garden. You can plant beautiful plants and trees and flowers and everything, but it has to be taken care of. That's the number one thing. And this is the framework or the most important principle I always start with.
I think you're absolutely right. Most people think, well, you've got search in the tenant, so therefore search is there and it works. And that, in a sense, is where we start with level 100, right? When you sign up for your tenant, search is there. It's got the search box at the top. You can search for stuff and you may or may not find it, right?
Yes, but absolutely the same happened with SharePoint. I mean, on-prem as well. Search is there. I mean, you go there, you have a search service application, you have local SharePoint content source, and yeah, it's there. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone is listening from Microsoft now, but I blame Microsoft for this a little bit, to be honest with you guys, because they sell it as they sell SharePoint as a product or platform. They sell Microsoft 365 licenses, and they communicate that search is there, and you should be happy with that from the very beginning. But they just don't communicate that, yes, search is technically speaking there, but this is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning of the story. Right. So that makes it hard to many organizations.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a part of the product, and like almost every other part of these products, you have to do some work in order to get enough out of them. Just sort of walking in the door, it works, but it doesn't necessarily work well. People sometimes say to me as a consultant, "Can you make it just work like Google?" It's like, sure, but do you know how many tens of thousands of people work at Google trying to figure out how your search results are going to work? And
exactly.
And most organizations don't even want to spend an afternoon a month looking at what people have been searching for and what they might need instead of what they're getting. So,
absolutely. And the other thing about Google versus enterprise search is when you publish something on your website, you do SEO. You try to optimize your content to have higher rank in Google. The question is, do you do the same with your documents in SharePoint, or do you optimize the metadata and everything on your documents? I highly doubt. So enterprise SEO or SEO inside the organization is something that is very, very, that people and organizations that don't have that culture. While if they publish something on the public website, they spend time and resources and money, and they check it and refine it and go back, and SEO on public content is a thing, but SEO in the enterprise is still not.
Yeah,
right.
It's a really good point, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think many organizations actually, even if they think that they're they're finding things using search. They actually may be sitting at level 100, which is essentially it's on, and you may or may not have built any kind of information architecture. You may not have any valid metadata. You may not have thought about sort of what scope at which people should search in order to find certain things. There probably aren't any specialized search experiences per se. We can build out using the PNP modern search web parts or highlighted content web parts or lots of other web parts which are sort of search enabled, search aware, and provide better search driven experiences. And a lot of organizations just haven't even thought about that stuff yet. And I think that's where we are at level 100.
Yeah, and it's also about this competency really links in heavily with the management of content too. And you've got to have your content in 365 as well. So, quite often there won't be enough content as well. It won't all be in 365. So, then search doesn't work as well because the index isn't picking it up.
Yes, and my experience for level 100 is that that's in many cases people still don't realize how powerful search can be, so that they don't even complain about it. They just don't use it. They ignore it because it's never worked. It's not working now. Why would I care to use it?
And it's funny because in those same organizations, they tend not to pay much attention to things like navigation, and they say, well, people will just search. So they're trading one bad experience for an even worse experience a lot of the time without really thinking it through. But there's hope, right? We can start to move up the maturity model and head up to level 200 and do a little better.
Absolutely. And I believe in this case, level 200, the key is that they start to realize that it could be better, and they start to have it would be nice if sentences. So it's still not good, obviously, and there are a lot of things that are missing about the content, about search, and even about permissions. But this is the level when people start to realize that search sucks and something should be done about it. So I believe there is a jump between level 100 and level 200, because on level 100 they don't even realize that something should be done, but on level 200 they start to open their eyes to improvements.
The first step of any 12-step program is to admit that you have a problem.
Absolutely. Yes, and also when talking about search, most organizations and most people think about, okay, we have to do a lot of configuration and customizations on search, maybe on the content as well, but permissions is also super important. My experience is there is a scale of the organizational culture. So on one end of this scale, there are the organizations where the default is everything is all employee public. So they share everything. And of course, in this case, the problem is that they have too many results in search and too many irrelevant results because they have access to everything. And the other end is when nothing is shared by default. So you have to have a reason to get access to something. And of course, in this case, the problem is you cannot find anything and everything between. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Most probably the best option is somewhere in the middle, but I have seen a couple of interesting stories and funny stories about permissions as well. And I like to tell this story because it happens again and again and again. The very first time I saw this was many years ago. It was a financial organization, actually here in Hungary, and they had SharePoint, I think 2013, if I remember correctly, but it doesn't really matter because what they wanted to do is, besides SharePoint, they wanted to connect their file shares to SharePoint Search, which technically speaking is not a big deal. Everything was in the same domain, so it's just, you create a new content source and set it as a file share content source, and that's it. And it took a while until everything got to the index, of course, because they had millions of documents on that file share. And the folder structure was quite complex, deep and wide as well. And once the indexing was done, they were super, super happy. They did a couple of searches and they could find the files they wanted to see in the results. So they were really, really, really happy. I think it was 3 days later when the project manager called me, super angry, super furious, and said, we have to shut down search immediately. We can find everything. And I was like, you were happy about this 3 days ago. What happened? So the thing happened was that somewhere deep here in the folder structure, they had somewhere deep, they had one Excel file called management salaries. Technically speaking, this Excel file was all employee public. Before search, nobody navigated there unless they knew the exact path, how to go there. But as soon as we indexed it, of course, if you did a search for the name of your manager, this Excel file was in the top 3 results. And of course, people were curious. They started to click on that, which was a message to the search engine, and this is an important and relevant file. So the search engine started to boost the ranking of this Excel file. And of course, people started to call each other and talk about this Excel sheet. And of course, the bank was not happy about that. So we had to shut down search. Being a financial organization, they started a project to review all the permissions very, very fast, like immediately. And then when the permissions were cleaned up, we could index the file share again. This time they did testing, not only on the content, but on the permissions as well, not only for a few days, but for weeks. But basically, this happens again and again. And what I can see is that in most cases, people blame search. Search sucks. It shows me things that I should not see. Technically speaking, search does what you tell it to do. So it just does what we expect it to do. But on level 2, I can see those stories with permissions, with metadata, with how the content is structured and everything. So yeah, but yes, this is the level when people start to realize that something should be done, but also this is when they start saying search sucks and they start blaming search for everything.
Yeah, I think your story sort of points out the fact that search it's almost the canary in the coal mine. It points out all of the other flaws in what you've done. If search is an overlay on top of all of your content in some ways. And so if you've done things that aren't sensical in building that content corpus, search will just drill right through it. It'll show you all those mistakes.
Yes, and also that's why search is also misunderstood. Because if you have any business application in your organization that has one specific business use case, search is for everyone in the organization, and it's a generic tool, platform, and in many cases it's everybody's responsibility, but at the same time nobody's responsibility. Well,
let's make it better. Let's hop up to level 300 because that'll solve everything, right? It'll make it better. It'll make it better. So here, I mean, with most of these competencies, where we go from level 100 to level 500, a level 300 is a nice, comfortable place to be. It's not a bad place to be at all. I think as Simon said early on, we want to, for each competency, sort of think about, well, where are we in this hierarchy, and then where would we like to be? And aspiring to 300 is not a bad thing, because it means that you've put some real thought into it, and you've gotten to the point where you have some thinking about governance, you have someone paying attention to search, you have some configuration of search going on to improve search results. Those are all good things, right, Agnes? I mean, we're heading in the right direction.
Absolutely. And as soon as you can see search as a business asset or a business process, then that's definitely the right way to go. And yes, people are also important. And as soon as the skills and expertise are captured, then we can not only that we have two important benefits in this stage on top of good content or better content findability. The number one is better people findability and better expertise findability, which is super important in large organizations. Number two, if we have information about people on their profile, then we can provide content to them, personalized content to them. So that can be also a good benefit for findability.
There's a great question that Kevin's asked, which I was actually going to ask something similar. How do you find the process is changing as people shift to Microsoft Search, especially with analytics and common terms?
The process is changing.
I mean, one of the things that we've certainly had to live through is, when we were on-prem, we had a lot of search configuration we could do. In SharePoint Online, we have sort of a bare screen, and we can't do much with it. So what do as that to me is one of the symptoms of Microsoft Search, is that we have less configurability. How do you see people, improving search given that you have fewer levers and dials to use?
At this stage, I don't think it's an improvement yet. What I can see is for every client, when it's about improving search, sooner or later we end up having something custom, either using a PMP modern search or a totally custom developed search web part, search application. Microsoft Search, well, when Microsoft Search was announced and the concept of Microsoft Search was clarified, like, unified and consolidated search, everyone was celebrating that, because at that time we had like 9 different search experiences in Office 365. So if you went to SharePoint, if you went to, I don't know, OneDrive, etc., all of those places had different search. So the consolidated search as a concept is definitely a good idea, and I think we are almost there. New search to Teams is coming soon, so that's still something that hurts a lot, search in Teams. But as soon as the new search is in Teams, then definitely this consolidation provides a much better experience. But it's also true that we still don't have enough configuration and customization options. And of course, Microsoft first wanted to clean up the platform itself and the basics itself without having us to play with it and work with it and customize and configure it. To be honest, I felt at least 2 years happening nothing or almost nothing with Microsoft Search. Of course, behind the scenes, I know that many things happened, but on the surface, I've been working with clients who, they saw on the roadmap that search customizations are coming and custom verticals, custom filters, custom search results, etc., coming next quarter, but it was always the next quarter. So that was a lot of disappointment, which I could see. But in the last few months, if you check Microsoft Search and the UI as well, but also the backend, the configuration options, and what you can do with Microsoft Search, actually there are more and more. So now we can have custom verticals. We have basic, but we already have some metadata search on document libraries. The new modern analytics is there. It's still not. It still does not have the same feature set as the classic analytics had, but finally something is happening again. So I am optimistic again. I still don't think Microsoft Search itself and alone can provide everything that any organization needs, but it can provide more and more.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would say starts to happen around level 300 is that people realize the admins realize that the search and intelligence admin role is one that should be opened up to content experts, not technical experts, right? It's
Absolutely.
not it's not an administrative function in the sense of, like running backups or keeping the network up. It's about managing content. And so parsing out that so-called admin right to the Search and Intelligence Center is something that really ought to go to subject matter experts.
Absolutely. And I can see the very same tendency, for example, on the people who attend my workshops. A year ago or 2 years ago, over 90% of the attendees were IT pros. I did a workshop 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and almost 50% was not IT, knowledge managers, content managers, content editors, so people who have no IT background, but they wanted to understand how search works and how to optimize the content and what they can do with that. And this tendency this workshop is one example, but this is a tendency which I can see in the last 1.5, 2 years.
And are you hearing from those people that they're given a little more control to try to improve the way search works, or is it still going to the admin folks and begging the IT pros?
I can see more and more organizations who say that, you can do this on your own department, on your own group, or on your own project. So it's not an organizational level or tenant level change first, but in most cases, those people who know what to do or who know what is possible, they can convince IT and they can convince the stakeholders that something should happen.
Well, that's good news. I mean, that's a leading indicator in my mind, right? We're seeing some improvements there.
Yes, absolutely. Of
Search
course,
configuration. Sorry, go ahead.
So of course there are organizations when it's a decision made on the top of the organization that search should be improved, but I can see more and more when it comes from one team or one department and then starts there, and then it goes bigger and bigger.
Great, Simon. It's nice to see you're here. I hope your child is doing all right.
Yeah, my 26-year-old daughter. Yeah, she's fine.
Child, yes. So level 300, we've sort of got our hands around things. We realize that, data about people is important. We realize that configuring search to some level is going to provide benefits. We start to think about the information architecture underneath, which is, again, sort of in the management of content competency, but also critical for search to really give you good results. What kinds of things can we expect when we get to level 400?
What I can see here is that the first and foremost, most important thing is measuring and measurable search and analysis and analyzing what we have here, what the users do with search, what they are satisfied with, what they are not satisfied with, and having a process for that. So it's not enough just collecting the data. We also have to know, and we also have to have a process what we do with that information. The other thing I believe that is important here is the interaction for the user experience. So having actions which the users can take on the search results, they can save for later, or they can share it with someone in the organization, or they can bookmark something. Those interactions also can magnify the importance of search, because the user knows that, okay, if I go to search, I know how to find the content there. I find what I need, plus I can take the action that I want to take, and I can work with the content there. That's also an important thing to bring users to search.
Yeah, I think to me, level 400 is where some serendipitous things start to happen, and we measure them. David made a point earlier in the chat that serendipity tends to happen around level 400, 500, but that serendipitous stuff doesn't happen unless things are wired together, right? I think the people card is an example of Microsoft giving us something that is almost 400 level like, right? We see a whole view of a person, including their content, which terrifies many people, right? Why are those files showing right there? So a lot of it's education at that point too. We have to make sure that people understand that just because you're seeing something when you are looking at a search-driven experience, that it's not what everyone else sees, which goes all the way back to the permissions conversation, right? I would assume that you end up talking to people a lot about permission trimming in search and how it really works, and the fact that the search index drives so many of the experiences now.
Yes, and what is really interesting about it is that if I just explain it, people don't get it. They have to see it on their own content. Period. It's not enough to play with it or see it on even if I provide them access to a demo environment. That demo environment has to have their own content or something that is similar to their content. So one thing that I really like to do if I have no access to their content, and obviously in many cases I am not allowed to download their content and upload to my tenant for demo purposes, even if it's just a demo for them. What I really like to do is going to the organization's public website and download content from there. Most organizations share PDF files, or even if they don't share PDF files, the HTML files can be saved as PDF, and I use that as demo content, which speaks to their people. They speak the language, they understand the content, they understand what's there. So that's one thing. The other thing, Marc, you mentioned the expression education, and that is super important. It would be important on each level, obviously, but the higher we go, the more important education becomes, because on one hand, people expect search just work. It should be, obvious enough and user-friendly enough and easy to understand. But at the same time, what I can see is in many cases, they complain about things that are there. For example, I cannot filter for, I don't know, the department. Yes, you can. On the left side, you just open up the department refiner and the filter is there. Or the other example from Microsoft 365 is if I do a search on a site level, I would like to expand search to the whole organization or to the whole tenant level. That's a more common complaint. Yes, you go there and you click on organization before the site in the header of the search results. People are blind. They just cannot see those things if you don't show them. That's there. And if you click there, you can expand search or you can filter for those things or you can do this, you can do that. So even if just a simple one, I believe that education should be as simple as possible, but we definitely need education. It could be 1-minute videos, it could be flyers in the office. I mean, as long as you can be in a physical office these days, but simple, short, quick, but search education is something that has to be done.
Yeah, and I think at level 400, where you're starting to measure a lot of things so that you really do understand where you're being successful and where you need to do some work. You want to measure some things that are going to go up, like we want to make sure that people are finding the things that they need and that's an upward slope. We also want to know that for instance, the help desk isn't getting so many false panics. Like I see files when I look at this person, that's wrong, because that's the countermeasure to the fact that we've done education well. If people stop reporting that stuff, that means they understand it better, hopefully. Sometimes not
Absolutely.
Reporting stuff is just not reporting stuff. But ideally are, the complaints, I can't find stuff, I can't understand why this is showing up in search, I can't, things that are bad should be going down at the same time that other things are going up.
Exactly. And why those things are going down, it's important to mention that the usage of search does not go down. So right. That does not. The reason is not that users stop using search, they keep using, but complain less and less. That's a good sign.
Yep.
Do you see many organizations publishing like the usage of search at all? For other people, for people to see? Really.
I don't see many organizations publishing it, but I can see many organizations when the communications team wants to need that wants to know that, yeah, they want to have that information.
Yeah, which news stories got the most views, that sort of information. Yeah, okay.
Well, let's since time keeps marching on, let's take a trip to level 500 and see what a form of nirvana might look like.
Yes, I think here it's super important that everything is continually enhanced. Again, search is not a one-time project. You even if you are on a 500, then you have to keep working on it just to stay there and have that perfect or close to perfect search experience. It's always good when organizations say that they are happy with search, and then it's always good to see. But it's not happening just itself, and you have to keep working on that. I think that it's super important that external resources are included in the search scope, but it has of course, as like everything in search, you have to do it the right way and you have to do it in a smart way. So usually when you add more and more content to search, that also means more and more irrelevant results. So it does not make sense to add everything. I always tell that before you do anything you should plan in advance in search. But if you are on a level 500, then most probably you already know that. And auto classifiers, tagging, and other metadata is a key. Metadata is always key. And I always say that metadata is the soul of search. So you have to have good metadata in order to have good search.
How do you see newer capabilities like Viva Topics coming? You know, it's almost like a reverse search in a sense, right? You're providing search results in context of the content. Do you see that as part and parcel of search, or is that a separate thing in your mind?
I see that as part of findability, definitely, and discoverability of the content, absolutely. And also, it also helps with search because you can see those Viva topics in search results, similar to bookmarks, which is also, you know, helping if you have those Viva topic pages and the users can use it and the users can find it. That's absolutely a good thing.
It's the same story though, right? You can't just buy a bunch of subscriptions to Viva Topics and all of a sudden everything's going to be happy, right? There's a lot of work there.
No, absolutely. And yes, the promise is high of Viva Topics, but you have to work there. Of course, it's a different type of work. So when you want to tag all the content manually, you have to sit down 1,000 users just not to do anything else but tagging the content. But if you want to do this automatically and extract the topics automatically, you can buy licenses, yes, but you have to plan for it. You have to have governance on it. You have to curate those topics. So it's a lot of work, but definitely this is a different type of work. So it cannot happen, I mean, unless you invest into it.
So there seems to be a beating drum theme here, right? And it's invest in and understand that there's work involved. Starting from day zero all the way through here, you're going to have somebody who plays that role, even if it's not their full-time job. It's
absolutely
managing search and making sure that if you want to go through these levels and get to become more sophisticated, you're going to have to invest.
Absolutely, and the earlier you do that, the better. I've been working with organizations who realized it too late. I mean, not too late, but who realized it late, that search sucks. Like they moved to Office 365, migrated a lot of content from FileShare to SharePoint, obviously no metadata, keeping the same folder structure. So SharePoint is just their modern FileShare. And okay, it does not work. It sucks. We cannot find anything. Oh, Teams is good. Let's use Teams. Then everyone created Teams for everything. Cool. Still could not find anything. So after doing this for 3 years, 4 years, even more, they realized that something should be done. But of course, just cleaning up this mess is super challenging. This is one thing. The other thing, if you are already in the middle of this mess, then your users are already not happy and not satisfied. They have a bad opinion about how it works. And even if you improve it, they keep saying search sucks, search sucks, search sucks. And I heard a story from a friend of mine who does not work with SharePoint search, but he works with another search engine. And he was in a similar situation that the users kept complaining search does not work, and they invested a huge amount of money over 2 years of time. They improved a lot of things. Users still were not happy, and they kept saying, we want it to work as Google, we want it to work as Google. So in the end, the organization decided to change only one thing You know this Powered by Google icon? They put this icon as an image next to the search box. Powered by
Brilliant.
Google, they nothing else. And the users started to say, search finally works.
Wow.
2 years, over 2 years of a lot of, change and configuration and customizations, and a lot of huge amount of money was not enough. This tiny icon, Powered by Google, made that switch in the head of the users.
Maybe we should add a bullet on this slide, roll out the Powered by Google logo. So that,
Is that
Absolutely.
level 500, definitely.
yeah.
Level 500, absolutely, yes.
Well,
Yes.
I did want to just sort of get through the last couple of slides so that people can ask questions if they have them. We have a couple of resources here. I think, Agnes, you probably have a few more that we can add to this, and we'll do that before we, after we put the slides out there available for you.